This is the old school traveler, and I'm back to tell you about another country and cities I visit. It's a different country than the U.S. It is about Australia. Yes, I went there, and I did enjoy myself. I went to three different cities while I was there. Well, actually four. I went to Sydney. Now, let me tell you about Sydney. Sydney's an all right city. It's a big city, but it's a business city. I just didn't see the fun in Sydney outside of the World Cup game I went to, the Women's World Cup. I did go there and I did see some cool things in Sydney. But Sydney is very, very businesslike. It's very businesslike. It's like New York City almost. So but I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell you what I was looking forward to, and I never got a chance to experience it. When I went to Sydney, I just knew I was gonna try some kangaroo. Oh yeah, because see, here's the problem. Sydney is not a food place if you want all kind of foods. Most of the food in Sydney was Korean, a lot of Asian type foods. I was trying to find some authentic Australian food. Now, let me tell you about Australian food. And this is a mistake I made. I went there, and the Australians eat a little bit different than we do. Not so much as in the kind of food they eat, it's just the way they eat it and the way they present it to you. It was a little bit different than what I ever thought. Now, saying that, what I did in Australia that was kind of weird. In Sydney, I went to this breakfast place that everybody recommended for breakfast. So I went there, and I'm thinking I'm going to have this great breakfast. And I ordered eggs, French toast, sausage, the typical breakfast stuff in America. So I ordered that, and I didn't have a problem with that at all. It's just that Australians don't, well, at least this restaurant, and it wasn't the only one. I went to a sports bar that was similar too. They don't spread the food out on the plate. You don't have eggs here, French toast there, and bacon over here or sausage over here. Nope, they stack it up. They stack it up north and south. There's no east west in Australia. They stack it up. But Sydney had a lot of things to look at culturally. They had a lot of things to look at culturally. And the food and the prices there were less than what I would pay in, say, the States, in DC area. It was definitely cheaper. But Sydney is one of the more expensive cities. You got Brisbane and Canberra. They're one of the more expensive cities in Australia. So, you go there, you look at the Sydney Harbor, which is a great scenery, but nothing that I can't get here in the States that doesn't look better. And I'll tell you about that later. But so Sydney was all right. Canberra is just boring. Can't say no other kind of way. It's a boring little city. Very, very boring. Now they drive on the left hand side of the road, and the only kangaroos I ran into was when I was going from Sydney to Canberra. You'll see kangaroos. They're all dead. They're all on the side of the road, but you'll see kangaroos. But not the kind you want to eat. I was just knew I was going to have some good kangaroo meat. So the second city I want to talk about is Canberra. If you want to be bored, go there. It's boring as hell. There's nothing to do there. It is the capital, and it feels like a capital city. There's nothing that you are going to want to do that you can do. If you want to do it, that ain't the place to be. No, not Canberra. Now, I'm going to talk about the third city I went to. And when I lived in Asia, Canberra, every place I ate at felt like a sports bar. Everything felt like a sports bar. Nothing felt like an authentic restaurant. And maybe, and I was there for like a week. So it wasn't like it was a Saturday or a Sunday and things were closed. No. And they have a lot of chains too. But they have a lot of Asian restaurants. If you like Asian food, go to Sydney or Canberra. Now, saying that, Canberra, I did like the shopping there a little bit, and I'm not a shopper at all. So I'm not gonna sit there and profess that I'm a professional shopper. No, I leave it to my wife and to other women, because they're just not me. But the one thing I did like a lot, like I said earlier, I like the hats. The shops I went to, they got a small little mall there. Well, we call it small because we tend to overdo everything. But they do have a mall there that I went and bought me some Australian hats. Well, they call them the Outback hats. And I'm gonna tell you right now, they keep you cool as hell when it's hot as hell. They keep you cool. It can be hot as hell out there, and I put that hat on, and it blocks. It keeps my neck, cool. It keeps everything cool. So I do like doing that. So I like that kind of shopping, and those places are on the website too. And the hats there are not the fake American Australian Outback hats. The hats there are authentic, and you know what? For what you get, I think $100 for those hats is a good deal. I think $100 is a good deal. Now, Australia, like I said, is a little cheaper. Now, the third city I'm going to tell you about that I keep going back and forth on, and I have not mentioned the name yet, is Perth. Perth is like Los Angeles in the States. I love Perth. You stay busy, a lot of things to do, and the negative side of Perth is kind of like Sydney. It is spread out. It is really, really spread out. But outside of that, which I didn't mind because traffic moves. Unlike Los Angeles, traffic moves here. So if you go to Perth, you're gonna see all kind of things on your drive to Perth. Driving from Sydney to Perth is like going from New York to LA. Australia is a huge continent. And they're very, very good at scenery. When you drive between the two, now I recommend you fly because I'm not driving between New York and LA. So I'm not asking you to go drive between Perth and Sydney because both of them are big cities. I think Perth is the third largest city in Australia and Sydney might be the largest. Canberra is definitely small. Canberra, you can go around the whole city in a few minutes, but as far as Perth goes, Perth is famous for its beaches. There's a lot of things to do on its beaches. There's a lot of things that you'll see, and it's enjoyable. And I really enjoyed it because it's almost like the sun's out every single day. Matter of fact, I didn't experience no rain. So Perth, in my book, is a city that if you're going to go to Australia and you don't want to get the hustle and bustle of Melbourne and Sydney, or even Brisbane's getting busy now. You know what? My advice to you is go to Perth. And, let me go back on something real quick. When I was in Sydney, I paid about $120 a night for a hotel. And it was a nice hotel. It was a Hilton property. I did about $120 a night. And food was like maybe $80 a night. And that's with a good glass of wine because Australia got some of the best wine. They got some of the best wine in the world, and they cook the food to what I asked to have the food cooked to. If I wanted medium well or medium, that's how my food came back. So Perth was fairly inexpensive, and a rental car was like $40 a day. It was fairly cheap, not something that I was going to harp on or something that I really cared about because it was cheap and the food was always good for the most part. The one thing you cannot go to Australia and expect is barbecue. Their vision and what they think is barbecue is totally different than what we think and how we see barbecue. Their idea, when I wanted barbecue, every Australian kept sending me to Korean barbecue joints. That's not barbecue. That's just Korean food on a grill. They have a lot of Korean barbecue joints. And that's what they like, and I get that. And that's what sells over there, but it's not what I like. My problem, I'm telling you my problem in a minute. Let me go to the next city. The fourth city, and it's my most favorite city in all of Australia. Well, no, that's not true. Perth is number one. But I did go to Melbourne, and I've been to Melbourne about 4 or 5 times, and I've been to Perth about 11 times. I'm going to tell you right now, Melbourne is the party city of Australia. Without a doubt, it's the party city of Australia. No other city comes close. Now, if you want to relax, go to Perth. If you're there for business and want to do business stuff, go to Sydney. You want to be boring or bored, go to Canberra. But if you want to have a good time all the time, the nightlife in Melbourne is a lot better than the nightlife anywhere else in Australia. Melbourne is a big city. It's not quite big as Sydney, I don't think, but it's a big city. But more importantly, it's a fun city. I'm always chasing that fun. It's a very, very fun city. And if you don't think it's fun, go there. Every single night, they got bars, they got theater, they got museums, they got something for everybody there. But the city keeps moving, and the transportation is great. The transportation is great as hell. I'm talking about public transportation. It don't cost very much. It's like Sydney. It's easy to get around. Sydney is easy to get around, but the Sydney Zoo is world class. Sydney Zoo is world class. The Melbourne Zoo is up there, but not quite as like Sydney. But you can't have, we only got so many animals on every planet, on this planet. We only got so many animals. So you can't have every animal everywhere at every zoo. But Melbourne Zoo is kind of fun. Melbourne itself is a lot more fun than Sydney. Sydney is a lot of fun if you do the zoo, if you go to the opera house. I got all that. I take pictures of all that. So it's a lot of fun at Sydney. But at Sydney, everything closes at 8, 9 o'clock. Melbourne, nothing closes. Melbourne is like, let me see, a city that never closes in America. Put it this way, Sydney is their New York, Perth is their LA, Melbourne is their Chicago. If you look at it that way, you're all right. You gonna say, you know what, this is not bad at all. But the thing that I like about Melbourne too is that Melbourne is not really near anything outside of Victoria. They got a city called Victoria. It's kind of like the suburbs, but Melbourne itself is not really near anything. So you're gonna have a good time. Now, Australia do have what we would call major roads. They don't really have an interstate system. They have major roads between major cities, but it's not like the interstate all over the country, where you can you can go straight east, west, or straight north, south, all through the country. Melbourne is not like that. Australia's not like that. Australia have a lot of wilderness, and they got a huge desert, and they got a city called Alice Springs, which is run by the indigenous, or well, it should be run by the indigenous Australians, because see, the whites were not the first ones there. But a lot of people lead you to believe that. Australia was strictly a cast-off, remote place for the British criminals. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Australia was there, and the Brits sent out the criminals there, and in some cases it still shows. But crime is not too bad in Sydney. There's no crime in Canberra. Melbourne got some crime, but the crime they have is not like our crime in America. They're not killing everybody, not all the time. They got some idiots, like we got a bunch of them. They got a few of them. And Perth is pretty quiet as well, too, But in Sydney was the most expensive city I went to. And then second was Melbourne. And then third was Perth. And Canberra is almost free. You can get, like I said, I gave you the price with Sydney earlier. But, Sydney was easy. A hotel was averaging $125 a night. Food was averaging about $60 a night, food and drinks. And then the rent-a-car. But that was it. Melbourne was averaging about maybe $90 a night for hotels. Perth was averaging maybe $70 for hotels. And Canberra was easy $65, $70 a night for hotels. And Sydney was average, food. I spent maybe 80 US, and these are US dollars. I spent maybe 60 US dollars, and Melbourne maybe 40, Perth maybe 30 a meal, and Canberra was around $50 for a meal. But because, like I said, when I say a meal, I'm not talking about McDonald's or Burger King or KFC. They got a lot of KFCs in Australia. because I was not eating American chain restaurants where I knew the food would be totally different in Australia. I was eating at local places, and even in Canberra, I was finding places for like $15 a night, and to eat at, and these were decent places that fill me up. And I'm talking about these places that you won't find anywhere else. And the Australians are big on breakfast. They're very, very big on breakfast. So I was having a great breakfast for like $15 US dollars. And even then, that was on the high side because my people I traveled with, they were paying like $12. So that was on the high side of everything. So when you go to Australia, it's cheaper than the US. Their prices are kind of like when you go from New York to Mississippi. Mississippi is the worst state we have in the United States. They damn near last on every list but the affordability list. Everybody can afford to live in Mississippi. In Australia, the people are the coolest people that you're going to meet almost anywhere in the world. They are cool people, good people, and you don't hear Australians complaining, but I'm saying that they don't complain in public. And they never talk bad about their country. In America, people complain all the time. Some people are just born to complain. Like me, I'm born to have fun. But in Australia, you got people who are just born to complain. I'm sorry. In the United States, you do. In Australia, they don't complain. They're used to life. They got lots of sunshine. It snows in certain parts of Australia. Now, I've never been there when it snowed, but I hear it snows in certain parts of Australia. But they got animals that you would never, ever see anywhere else. You would never see them anywhere else. And that's just Australia itself. Because Australia still have dinosaur animals. Now, we have dinosaur animals in America, like crocodiles, and a few of the other birds that Australia got a bunch of them. They got a bunch of them. You're going to like Australia if you ever go there. The biggest negative to going to Australia from the United States, the damn flight time. You are in the air for years, not hours, years. They have a lot of things you want to do and see. And Australia is big as hell. It's a large continent. It's a continent and a country, but it's large. It's not like the States. The States, you got 1,800 air carriers that can take you anywhere you want to go. Australia only got one or two of them. Qantas suck. The food sucks. I can tell you that right now. I took Qantas going one way. After the experience, I came back on American. And I paid first class. I did first class going there and first class coming back. And I paid $1,700 for first class. I did do that because that is a long trip. That trip is about 22 hours, maybe 18 hours on a good day. But from the east coast of America to Sydney, you are going to have a long trip. So get ready for a long, long, long trip. And some people can deal with it. Some people can't. If you're a smoker, you're going to explode on the plane before you land. Because you're not going to smoke a cigarette or a cigar for a long, long, long time. But for me, I had a blast. I felt like I ate 10 times, and I took, matter of fact, I went to Australia before from the East Coast on United. I've done American. I've done all the major airlines. And the bottom line is, it's a long flight. And the cost is not much if you're an American going from the East Coast to Sydney. But if you're an Australian, that could be expensive because I hear that they pay like 15 to 20K US dollars to go between the East Coast of the United States to Sydney, which is their East Coast. I hear they pay a lot of money. But I enjoyed the flight, but not the Qantas version of it because that food was just horrible. So the United version of that, whether it's San Fran or LA that you leave from, or Seattle, I actually like leaving from LA. But I've had people say that they love San Fran, and the reason they love San Fran is because the airline they're on United, and see, I took United as well on a couple of times, and I like United better than the other airlines that goes there. But if you can get on a flight and you go to Canberra, that's not Canberra, but Brisbane, you might enjoy that more than some other people, because right now they have a Dallas to Brisbane flight that people say is a great flight. I'm not taking it yet, but I am going to take that flight. But my whole point is that Australia is cheaper, and it's it's fun. But if you only got one city to go to in Australia, and you want to make it worth your time and your money, go to Melbourne. Sydney is boring. But you know what, though? The traffic is not bad. No traffic that I've encountered over the past 20 years is going to be like traffic in D.C. area, New York, even L.A. Those are just terrible cities. But go ahead and book a flight. Go to Australia, because there are a lot of things to see and do there, and they got a lot of coastline. So all you people who love the beach and the sun, Australia's for you. You just got to get over not being able to, you got to get over not being able to go places, and the distance doesn't bother you if you want to have fun. I slept so much, on the airplane going over that, but when I got to Australia, I was ready to run. Got off the plane, ready to run. But if you're going to go to one city, and I tell you, I always debate, because I'm not a lay in the sun type person for 18 hours. And some people are for, so that's their nature. We got people in America who go to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, whatever have you. I've never been there, because I don't have a fantasy to lay in the sun and just bake all damn day. I don't know how it's fun for anybody. But you can go to Sydney, you can go to Australia, and the whole trip itself might cost you 10 grand. And 10 grand is not a bad deal for a couple weeks of vacation in a place that's got lots of sun, lots of museums, lots of zoos. You got a lot of things to do. So my advice to you is take a chance, because Australia is a country that's high on my list of places that I'm going to go back again. I've been there forever. I've been not forever. I've been there many, many, many times, and I'm going to do it again. So this is the old school traveler telling you, go to Australia, enjoy yourself, and you'll be amazed at what you're going to learn in Australia, because the people are friendly, the food's good. I didn't have kangaroo, but you'll enjoy yourself. Peace out. The old school traveler.